In this video, I'll show you some of the ways in which you can slice a list in Python. So to start off, we define the var mylist at the very top. It's got A, B, C, D, E, and F. And the first thing I wanted to show you guys is how to slice with this 2:5. So basically it's going to be a number and then colon and then a second number. And the first one will be where you start off in that list, and that second value is going to be where you stop. Now, the weird thing about stop is that it's actually going to be 1 minus the value that you put in stop. So I'll show you what that means. So if I print this out, so it's my list, and then bracket 2:5, close bracket. I can run, oh, not up there. Down here in the command prompt, I can run python main.py and run this Python file, and it's going to show me C, D, and E. Okay, so C, D, and E. Okay, so what did 2 do? So 2 started the counting at index 2. So A is at index 0, B is at 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. So 2 starts counting at 0, 1, 2. So it starts the slice right here at C, which you can see down here. And then the counting stops at 1 minus stop. So it actually will stop at index 4 because it's 5 minus 1 is 4. So 4 is, again, 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. So 4 is E. So the slices will go from 2 to 4, which is C, D, and E. And that's what we see down here. So I'll comment that out, and I'll go to the next one. So this is just if you specify a start, but not that end stop point. So what this is going to do is it's going to start at 2, and then it'll just get the rest of the list. So if I run this function down here, you can see that it gets C, D, E, and F, because F is the last piece of the list. This is where it starts. So if you don't specify a stopping point, but you still have the colon, it'll just go from this first value to the very end of the list. So then what happens if you do the opposite? What happens if you specify the end, but not the start? Well, it's going to get you all of the values starting from the very beginning of the list up to 1 minus that stop. Again, the stop is kind of weird. It goes up until 1 minus. The index that we're going to is not 5, it's actually 4. So again, this is 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. So we should get all of the values from the very beginning. So A, B, C, D, and E, and then it'll stop at E, and we won't get F. So if I run the Python file, we'll get A, B, C, D, and E, which is what we expect. Going on to the next one is what happens if you just have a colon in the middle. What is this going to do? Well, it'll just give you a copy of the entire list. And what's important here, if you're wondering why the point of that is it'll give you a copy of the list, which is different from just giving you the list. And I can do another video on what the difference is between a copy and just the list itself, but for now I will just leave it at that. So the next one is what occurs if you specify another value here. So 1, 5, and then a 2. What will that do? Well, the third value here, if you have the first one and then a colon and then 2, or then the next value and then a colon and then a third value, the third value is going to be step. So the first one is start and then stop, like what we're kind of used to up here. But then that third is going to be a step, and step will basically allow you to skip certain values while you slice through a list. So I'll print this out and then I'll explain what we're seeing. Okay, so we're seeing B and D. So why are we seeing B and D? Well, so first let's look at what start and stop is. So start and stop, as we know, it'll give you the values at index 1 through 4, because it's 5 minus 1. So 1 through 4. So what is 1 through 4? 1 through 4 is 0, 1. So B, C, 3, D, 4, E is 5. So we're stopping here. So it's B, C, and D. So that's what this first slice will get you, is B, C, and D. But we don't see B, C, and D down here. We just see B and D. But that's because we have a step down here, step 2. So step 2 is going to give you can basically think of it as it's only going to get a second values in that slice that is specified right here, start and stop. So we start with value B, so B is right there, and then it goes 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, and then it'll only get you those that are on the 1 because it's every other. So you get B, and then it's going to skip C, and then it'll get you D. So that's why we only have B and D here, is because it's going to skip B. If you were to put a 3 in here, then it would only get all of the third values in the slice. So it would skip, pull the value, skip, pull the value, and then 4 it would only grab you every fourth value in this slice that you detailed here. So that's what step does. And one last thing before we go is what the heck happens if you put in a negative number. So start and stop can also be a negative number. And all this means is that it will start counting from the end of the list instead of the beginning of the list. So what does that mean? Well, I'll show you. So this will get me. So this will get me A, B, C, D, and E, because we don't want the value at the very end of the list. So this would be the opposite of, and this I think will help some of you understand it a little bit more as well. So if we were to do this, it would be all of the values instead of the first, right? So A, B, C, D, E, and F. This gets us B, C, D, E, and F. So it's all of the values instead of A. This is just the opposite, where it's all of the values instead of F, because we start counting going backwards on this side, but here we're counting forward. So that was that one. Then what do you guys think this one is going to do? So here we just get E and F. So E and F. And it's because we start counting at the end of the list, but we're going to the very end of the list on this side. So if we go in -2, starting from the right, we get to E, and then it goes to the end of the list going right. So that's what that one does. And this last example I'll show you is my list :-2. So what do you guys think this one will do? So we get A, B, C, and D, which makes sense because this time we specify, E and F are going to be the ones that we don't want at the very end. So we get all of the stuff at the beginning up to -2 from the end. So 1, 2. So up until these guys. We want all of the stuff at the beginning up until the end of that list, which is why we get A, B, C, and D. So there's more examples that I could give, but I think this is where I'm going to start for now. Thank you, and I hope that this was helpful.